Imagine waking up on an ordinary Tuesday morning. You pour your coffee, check your phone, and open your banking app. You scroll past checking accounts, credit card balances, and investment portfolios, and then your eyes land on the total net worth tracker. $100,000. Not income, not revenue, net worth. Assets minus liabilities, sitting at a clean 6 digits, one followed by 5 zeros. There is no confetti cannon that goes off in your kitchen, no alarm sounds, no representative from the Global Wealth Registry knocks on your door to hand you a badge. The sun comes up the exact same way it did yesterday. You still have to do your laundry, you still have to go to work, yet something fundamental has shifted in the background of the universe. For months, or even years, you have been pushing a massive boulder up a steep, muddy hill. Every paycheck felt like an inch forward, and every unexpected expense felt like sliding 2 feet backward. It was a grind of micro-decisions, budgeting apps, sacrifices, and delayed gratification. And then, right here at the $100,000 mark, the incline flattens. The physics of money change entirely. We live in a culture obsessed with the $1 million milestone. We treat 7 figures as the holy grail of financial success, plastering it across thumbnails, book covers, and social media feeds. But financial historians, data analysts, and people who have actually crossed the line know a quiet, counterintuitive secret. The first $100,000 is not just a milestone. It is an entirely different financial dimension. It is the hardest, most brutal, and most transformative phase of your entire financial life. Let us look at how the machinery of wealth accumulation actually works, why the system is structurally rigged against you in the beginning, and what happens to your life the exact day that 6-figure threshold finally clears. To understand why the first $100,000 feels like scaling Everest in bare feet, you have to look at the math of absolute scarcity. When you start your financial journey with a net worth of 0, or worse, negative numbers driven by student loans and credit card debt, you are working entirely with muscle. Every single dollar you save is a dollar you had to trade your direct time and physical labor for. There is no multiplier, there is no helper, it is just you, your salary, and the cost of living fighting over scraps at the end of the month. If you manage to save $500 in January, that $500 is just sitting there. By February, it might buy you a tank of gas or a grocery run. It does not reproduce, it does not work a night shift while you sleep. This is the linear phase of wealth. Every unit of progress requires an equal unit of suffering. If you want to double your savings from $5,000 to $10,000, you have to cut your lifestyle or work harder for the exact same amount of time it took you to get the first $5,000. It is exhausting. It is the reason why 70% of people give up within the first 2 years of trying to get their financial house in order. They look at the mountain ahead of them, look at their bank account balance, and feel the crushing weight of futility. The system relies on you staying in this linear phase. Modern consumer culture is a giant suction pump designed to intercept your money before it ever has a chance to accumulate mass. Every subscription service, every targeted advertisement, every impulse purchase, and every peer pressure trap is calibrated to keep you at 0. Because when you have 0 net worth, you are economically fragile. You have no negotiating power. You are forced to take the bad job, rent the overpriced apartment, and accept whatever credit card interest rate the algorithm hands you. You are a permanent tenant in someone else's economic machinery. Then you start saving. You cut the fat. You drive the older car. You automate your investments into low-cost index funds. You endure years of social awkwardness when you say no to dinners out and weekend trips you cannot afford. And slowly, painfully, the numbers start to crawl. 10,000, 25,000, 50,000. By the time you cross 75,000, something strange begins to happen in the background. The machine starts to stutter. Let us look at what Charlie Munger and generations of investors called the first rule of wealth building. The first 100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. Charlie did not mean it as a casual remark, he meant it as a mathematical law. Why 100,000? Why not 50,000? Why not 1,000,000? Because of the tipping point where compounding interest transitions from a theoretical concept you read about in books into a visible, breathing entity that alters your reality. Think of money as gravity. When you have a small amount of mass, your gravitational pull is practically zero. Nothing is attracted to you. You have to pull everything toward yourself manually. As your net worth climbs toward $100,000, your financial mass reaches a critical density. Let us run the numbers. Suppose you have $100,000 invested in a diversified portfolio, averaging a historical 7 to 8% real return over the long term. 7% of $100,000 is $7,000 a year. Let that sink in. $7,000 a year means your money is earning roughly $580 every single month, without you lifting a finger, writing a line of code, or sitting through a single corporate meeting. That is not your salary. That is not money you traded your life hours for. That is the system working for you. $580 a month covers your grocery bill, it covers your utilities, it covers your car insurance. For the first time in your life, your capital has generated an employee that never sleeps, never takes a sick day, never complains about management, and works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Compare that to where you were on day one, when your entire net worth was a negative balance and every dollar you earned was instantly swallowed by past consumption. The day you hit $100,000, you are no longer just a laborer. You are a capitalist, even if on a microscopic scale. You own a tiny sliver of global enterprise, and that sliver is starting to spin its own momentum. This is where the mathematical magic of exponential growth takes over. People fundamentally misunderstand exponential curves because our brains are wired for linear thinking. If you take 30 linear steps, you end up 30 paces away. If you take 30 exponential steps, doubling each time, you end up 1 billion paces away, wrapping around the Earth multiple times. The path from $0 to $100,000 is the longest, steepest leg of the exponential curve. It is the flat part of the J-curve. It takes most people 5, 8, or 10 years of relentless discipline to scratch and claw their way to that first six-figure milestone. Every single dollar in that pot had to be pushed there by hand. But once you cross 100,000, the slope of the curve changes violently. The next $100,000, getting from 100,000 to 200,000, will not take you another 10 years. Given the same savings rate and the power of compounding interest, it will take you significantly less time. And the third 100,000 will happen even faster than that. The boulder is no longer being pushed up the hill. The boulder has crested the summit, and gravity is now pulling it down the other side in your favor. Yet the most profound change that happens on the exact day you hit $100,000 is not mathematical. It is psychological. It is the sudden, irreversible evaporation of financial panic. When you live with zero net worth or high debt, you live in a state of low-grade chronic trauma. Your nervous system is constantly humming with background static. You know that a single trip to the emergency room, a blown transmission, or a sudden layoff will send your life into a tailspin of high-interest credit card debt and desperate phone calls to family members. You make decisions from a place of fear. You stay at a toxic job because you cannot afford 2 weeks of unemployment. You accept bad treatment from landlords because moving costs money you do not have. You are trapped by your own financial fragility. The day your net worth hits $100,000, that static cuts out. Suddenly you realize that you have a 6-month buffer between you and the harsh realities of the world. You look at your bank accounts and understand that you could lose your primary source of income tomorrow, and your life would not instantly implode. You could pause, you could breathe, you could pivot, learn a new skill, or take a calculated risk without staring starvation in the face. Options. That is what $100,000 actually buys. Not sports cars, not designer clothes, not luxury vacations. It buys pure, unadulterated autonomy. It is the exact moment you stop being a servant to your bills and start becoming the master of your time. And this is where society gets the narrative completely backwards. Look at how media and pop culture talk about wealth. They flash images of mega mansions, private jets, super yachts, and hedge fund managers celebrating billion-dollar mergers. They make you feel like if you are not a multimillionaire, you have somehow failed. They make $100,000 look like pocket change, a trivial milestone on the way to real success. This is a psychological trick designed to keep you consuming. If you feel like $100,000 is small, you will keep spending. You will keep upgrading your lifestyle. You will keep running on the treadmill because you think you're still poor anyway. So what does it matter if you finance a nicer car or buy a bigger house? The people who control consumer finance want you to feel inadequate at $100,000. They want to rush you past it. They do not want you to realize that crossing that threshold represents a massive psychological and economic chasm. Think about the demographic data. In many developed economies, the median net worth of a household under 35 is a fraction of that number. A huge percentage of the population has a negative net worth, swimming in consumer debt and student loans with zero liquid reserves. If you have a net worth of $100,000, you are statistically light years ahead of the crowd. You have broken free from the gravitational pull of consumer debt slavery. You have crossed the border from financial vulnerability into financial resilience. Yet right at this moment of triumph, a subtle and dangerous trap awaits those who are not paying attention. It is called the victory lap. You reach $100,000. You look at your account statement and a wave of pride washes over you. You earned it. You sacrificed for it. You missed out on dinners, skipped vacations, and drove a car that rattled on the highway. And then the whisper begins. I deserve a treat. I've been so disciplined. What's wrong with spending $10,000 on a nice trip or upgrading my car? I've got money now. This is the siren song of lifestyle inflation, and it sounds sweeter at $100,000 than it ever did before. Because you finally have capital, you feel like your wealth can absorb a hit. You feel like you have earned the right to relax the rules. If you yield to that whisper, you trigger a financial tragedy. You pull money out of the compounding engine just as it is starting to build real velocity. You reset the clock. You slide back down the mudslide you spent 5 years climbing. The people who build true generational wealth, the people who eventually turn that 100,000 into 500,000, 1 million, and beyond, do something entirely different on the day they hit 6 figures. They do nothing. They look at the number, they acknowledge the milestone, and then they close the app. They go back to work. They keep their lifestyle locked down. They let the compounding engine do what it was mathematically designed to do without interference. They understand that the first $100,000 is not a finish line. It is the admission ticket to a completely different game. Before 100,000, you are playing the survival game. You are defending against immediate catastrophe. After 100,000, you are playing the accumulation game. You are letting time, math, and capital do the heavy lifting for you. Imagine what your life looks like 5 years after that milestone if you do not touch the engine. That initial 100,000, fueled by continued steady contributions and the power of compound interest, has grown quietly in the background. It is no longer just a buffer. It is a second income stream. You walk down the street, look at the people rushing past you to jobs they hate, stressed about credit card bills and auto loans, and you realize something profound. You are no longer running on their treadmill. You stepped off. The day you hit $100,000 net worth is the day money stops being an instrument of stress and starts becoming an instrument of freedom. So ask yourself this as you look at your own financial horizon. Are you treating your first major milestone as a license to spend, or as the ignition switch for the rest of your life?